you're an African-American successful business person. You're the secretary of HUD. You work for President Trump. Is he racist?
He is not racist at all, you know.
Did you catch that demeanor? That right there is what we call class in a media landscape that loves to scream, shout, and throw labels around. Dr. Ben Carson just walked in and quietly dismantled the entire narrative without raising his voice. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today we are diving deep into two clips that the mainstream media probably wishes you would not see. We are looking at HUD Secretary Ben Carson bringing absolute receipts on policy, and later we are going to see a clip of Dr. Quanta Ahmed that completely flips the script on who the real victim is in Washington. If you are tired of the outrage machine and want to get back to facts and results, do me a favor, smash that like button and subscribe. It helps us get this truth out to more people. Now let's watch the rest of this and see how Ben Carson handles the pressure.
There is a new escalation in President Trump's showdown with the four progressive congresswomen known as the Squad as their Twitter battle continues to blow up social media. Minnesota Congresswoman Ilhan Omar tweeted this last night. You all should end this charade and accept that this racist president wants every black, brown person deported and Muslims banned. His immigration policies say this much. The president tweeted this morning, I don't believe the four congresswomen are capable of loving our country. They should apologize to America and Israel for their horrible, hateful things that they've said. They are destroying the Democrat Party, but are weak and insecure people who can never destroy our great nation. Ben Carson is the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, and he joins me right now. And, Mr. Secretary, it's good to have you on the program this morning.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
What
Maria.
a fight. Oh, my goodness. So, look, you're an African-American successful business person. You're the Secretary of HUD. You work for President Trump. Is he racist?
He is not racist at all. You know, the first time I met him, it was before we got into politics, was down at Mar-a-Lago. And he and I were talking, and someone came up to him and said, Mr. Trump, Rod Stewart is here. And he said, yeah, but this is Ben Carson. You know, that's the kind of person he is. and you may remember when we were running for president at one of the debates, and I couldn't hear my name announced, so I was standing there. Everybody else gleefully walked past me, but Trump stood right next to me until they straightened it out. You know, that's the kind of person that he is. You know, he lived in New York. Jesse Jackson gave him an award for the incredible things that he had done in the African-American community. I have never seen anything that even resembles racism. And look at the policies that have been done. And look at the people who have been helped. You know, black unemployment at the lowest level ever. Same thing for Hispanics. You look at the fact that he is engaged so much in second chance for people. You know, things that other people talked about, but he has done. You know, opportunity zones where people who've made enormous amounts of money have the opportunity to take unrealized capital gains and to plow them into the areas of the country that have traditionally been neglected. You know, it's what's been done. It's not what's been said or how it's been interpreted and hashed over and over in the media.
But Secretary, look at this tweet that Ilhan Omar has put out. I mean, this is an elected congresswoman. An elected position that says that, you know, the president wants every black and brown person deported, every Muslim banned. How is this possible that an elected official can get away with saying this as if this is fact?
Well, you know, there is a radical element. I don't want to talk about a specific congressperson because of the Hatch Act, but, you know, there is a radical element that has been introduced into our legislative body that seems to be intent on pushing their ideology. And they have an accomplice in the media in doing so. And this is very detrimental to our country. You know, I think, you know, we should be having a conversation with the media, and they should be having a conversation themselves, asking themselves, why is it that the press is the only business that has been protected by our Constitution? And the reason is because they were supposed to disseminate objectively to the people of America real information upon which they could make decisions. They were not supposed to try to manipulate people. So, you know, there are the radical element that is taking advantage of the ideological bent of the media, and it's unfair to the people. But as Thomas Jefferson said, the people will come through. The the people will be smart enough to figure this out.
Yeah.
I hope that's true.
Well, I mean, I agree with that sentiment. This dysfunction is certainly not serving the people, that's for sure. Secretary, before you go, a word on housing. We just saw housing numbers which showed that home ownership in the black community is now at an all-time low, while Hispanics are actually driving the housing market, increasing numbers in terms of home ownership. Can you characterize what you're seeing? We're about to speak with Brian Moynihan, the chairman and CEO of Bank of America, largest mortgage originator. I'd like to get your take in terms of housing right now before we speak with Mr. Moynihan coming up in the program.
Yeah, well, interestingly enough, black home ownership has declined significantly, particularly because of the housing crisis. You know, people took advantage of a lot of people who did not have a lot of wherewithal in terms of financial knowledge about housing. And, you know, by manipulating debt-to-income ratios and the various types of manipulations for credit that were done, they put people into houses that they couldn't afford.
I see.
Which is not doing anybody any favor. You lose your house, you lose your credit, you lose your future opportunities. We're still recovering from that. And it is very important that we do what we can to get people back into housing, because the average net worth of a renter is $5,000. The average net worth of a homeowner is $200,000.
Yeah.
40-fold difference. That accounts for a lot of the income gap that we are seeing, and we're working very hard to correct that.
All right, we will talk more about that. I just found it interesting that Hispanics are doing so well, and you're seeing such a difference in terms of the black community. Secretary, it's always a pleasure to see you. Thanks very much for joining us this morning.
My next guest is an American Muslim doctor. She says Congresswoman Omar is an embarrassment and a disgrace to the Muslim community. Joining me now is Dr. Kanta Ahmed, a member of the Council on Foreign Relations and a counselor at the USC Shoah Foundation. Doctor, you also say that Omar is not the victim she portrays herself to be. Great to have you on. Why is that?
It's just diabolical that she commits yet another violence against the families of survivors of 9/11 and the families of victims of 9/11. Foremost, I'm a physician who takes care of people that have survived or had diseases complicated by the World Trade Center attacks. That was devastating remarks that I actually heard while I was in Africa, in Rwanda, commemorating a genocide there. She is depicting in this diminishment what I would describe as a profound denial of 9/11. And as you know, I work a lot with anti-Semitism, and it reminds me of the mentality of Holocaust deniers, or, as we've seen in Rwanda, there are some who would deny the genocide there too. So this denial raises in me a couple of questions. Does she really think 9/11 was not an Islamist, jihadist attack which came from within the Muslim fold? The Quran tells us, Islam tells us, we must be strict in observing justice, even if it means bearing witness against ourselves, against our kith and our kin. And it also tells us we have to do that with impartiality. We cannot be biased if we have certain prejudices. She harbors prejudices. She diminished the worst attack on this country since Pearl Harbor, and she does an assault on my patients, on all families who are grieving for their survivors. It's despicable. Worse is that opponents, whether in her party or not, are shielding her from the kind of searing criticism she deserves.
Well, Dr. Ahmed, we're going to have an entire hour on just this conversation of Islam in the world today, especially its role in America. And this conversation should focus on the facts. You just laid out a whole bunch of them. We really appreciate your being with us tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Laura. And if I can just say, this observation of denying 9/11 was made to me when we discussed this in Rwanda with Muslims, with African Muslims.
We're going to keep this conversation going, but we appreciate your...
There is so much to unpack here, but let's start with Dr. Ben Carson. You know what I love about him is that he does not play the emotional game, but Hiromo asks him point blank about the racism attacks coming from Ilhan Omar and the rest of the squad. And what does he do? He does not get angry. He points to policy. He brought up something that nobody wants to talk about: results. We're talking about historically low unemployment for blacks and Hispanics. He mentioned the opportunity zones, which is actual investment in neglected communities, not just empty promises. His argument is bulletproof. If the president was actually a racist, why is he working so hard to create economic independence for minority communities? He even calls out that radical element in Congress, referring directly to the squad's tactics, noting that they are pushing a narrative that ignores these positive realities. Ben Carson point about financial Literacy at the end was crucial too. He is talking about closing the gap between renting and owning, building actual generational wealth. That is how you solve problems. And then we have Dr. Quanta Ahmed. If Ben Carson was the shield, she was the sword. That clip was powerful. You have a highly respected Muslim physician and member of the Council on Foreign Relations explicitly saying that Ilhan Omar is not a victim when she compared the rhetoric to denialism, whether it is 9/11s or the Holocaust. That hit hard. She is making a point that I think Ben Carson would agree with you. Cannot hide behind your identity to shield yourself from criticism when your policies or your words are destructive. Dr. Ahmed used the Quran to shut down the idea that Ilhan Omar is immune to criticism. She said, Islam demands justice, even against one's own kin. That completely dismantles the media's favorite defense, which is to call anyone who criticizes the squad a bigot. So what is the takeaway here? You have Ben Carson, a man of faith and science, focusing on economic uplift and results. You have Dr. Ahmed, a woman of faith and science, demanding accountability and truth. Both of them are cutting through the noise. They are showing us that the radical element Ben Carson talked about is trying to distract us with name-calling because they cannot win on the facts. I am with Ben Carson on this one. Look at the policies, look at the results, ignore the noise. What did you guys think? Did Ben Carson calm defense win you over, or was Dr. Ahmed fiery takedown more effective? Let me know in the comments below. Do not forget to like and subscribe for more real talk. I will see you in the next